Hello, this is the Ramblings of an Undisciplined Mind podcast for Saturday, May 7th, 2016. As of this recording, Sierra is still missing. If you're one of the few people that watches this podcast on the video, then, I got to figure out something for the summer months because I was recording yesterday and I was recording a video episode in the car and I'm driving into the sun when I go home, and the sun was heating up the phone to the point where the phone had to shut down right in the middle of recording. So I don't know what I can do about that. I don't know if I can put something behind it, if that'll help block it. I don't know. So I gotta look at that. I gotta see. It's getting a little lighter in the morning. Maybe I can shift to do it in the morning, but I'm still driving in the sun in the morning. So I'm worried that when we get to the heat of summer, I'm gonna have that same problem. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do about that, and what I can do about that. Maybe I can put the camera someplace where it's outside of the sun. The phone, I should say. I gotta look into that and see what I can do. And just, see what I can do on that. But what I'm going to talk about today is I realize I'm a little behind on my Stephen Covey chapters, talking to you about them. So today we're going to go through habit number 3, putting first things first. So, we've talked about habits 1 and 2, and habit 1 was be proactive. Habit 2 was begin with the end in mind. And he says that, Stephen Covey says that habit 3 is a personal fruit or the practical fulfillment of the first 2 habits. So habit 1 says you're the creator and you're in charge. Habit 2 is the mental creation, kind of the first creation. You build it in your head kind of thought process. And then habit 3 is the physical creation, or the second creation, where you're actually doing what it is that you had realized and had thought about in habits 1 and 2. So this is where we're starting to get into the rubber meets the road a little bit. So the whole point of effective management is putting first things first. Leadership decides what the first things are, but management puts them first by doing the day-by-day discipline of carrying it out. There's an essay by a guy named E.M. Gray that he mentioned here, where he says he spent his life searching for the one denominator, it's not money, that all successful people share. And he found that it wasn't hard work, good luck, or astute human relations. That factor was that they put first things first. They made priorities and they worked on the priorities. We need to organize and execute around priorities. And he talks a little bit about time management through the years, because we've had different things where we worked on over the years where time management was, at one point it was all about being efficient, next it was about scheduling your time. And he sees that there's a new generation of time management coming out there that understands that time management isn't about managing our time, it's about managing ourselves. And if we manage ourselves properly, then we can, then we'll be effective because we're doing what we should be doing, as we looked at, the first three things here. He talks a bit about the quadrant activities here. So he's got 4 quadrants that he says everything that we do falls into. You've got quadrant 1, which is stuff that is urgent and important. So those are things that are like, problems at work that need to get fixed right away, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects. So those are urgent and important. You've got quadrant 2, which are important but not urgent. Things like any preventative work, working on production capacity. We talked about the P slash PC, the production capacity, increasing your production capacity, relationship building, working on new opportunities, planning, recreation. These are things that are important, but they're not urgent. And as we'll see, a lot of times they get kind of shunted to the side because of that. And then we got quadrant 3, and that is not important yet urgent. And those are going to be like interruptions, phone calls, emails, meetings, somebody stopping by your desk with something that they're there, they want to talk about it. Maybe it's not an urgent matter, or maybe they think it's urgent. They're there in your face. You got to deal with it, but it's not really important. Things of that nature. And then quadrant 4, which is not important and not urgent. So this is going to be like busy work. Once again, dealing with some emails, some phone calls, wasting time, pleasant activities. Those things are they're kind of the things we shouldn't be spending time on, the majority of our time on. So the problem is a lot of people will focus on quadrant 1, which is the stuff that's important and urgent. And if you focus too much on that, there's problems with that because you're always going. You never get a chance to really prioritize. You never get a chance to really do any planning. You never get a chance to take a breath. And so the problems with dealing with that too much are stress, burnout. You're always dealing in crisis management, and you're always putting out fires, as we put it. Now we're going to ignore quadrant 2 for a second. We're going to look at what's the problem if we're spending all our time in quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 was stuff that was not important but urgent. And some of the results of that are going to be a very short-term focus, dealing in crisis management all the time. You can get a reputation as being a chameleon. Your character could change from situation to situation. Goals and plans are worthless because you're in the now. Don't need plans, don't need goals, because I'm just dealing with this 5 minutes in front of me, and then when I get done with that 5 minutes, I'm going to look at the next 5 minutes. People can also feel victimized and out of control because stuff's just getting fed to them. They don't really have any control over their lives. Again, very shallow relationships or broken relationships if you're spending all your time in 3. Now, obviously, a lot of time in 3 and a lot of time in 4 are not good. And 4 was the pleasurable trivia activities. The results of that could be you could be seen as being totally irresponsible. You get fired from your job. You can be dependent on others or institutions for the basics of getting your jobs done. So effective people aren't spending a lot of time in quadrants 3 and 4, and they can shrink quadrant 1 to a manageable size by spending more time in quadrant 2. And so quadrant 2, once again, is dealing with the planning and all those things. And the results that can come out of it can give us vision. It can give us perspective, balance, discipline, control, and fewer crises. So these are all the things that typically people don't take the time to do because we've got the urgent, important stuff over here. But the thing to remember, to realize, is that working on the important non-urgent stuff can help you learn how to manage and minimize your reactions to the important urgent. It give you ability to develop control over that. There's some things you can't control. Like if something breaks and you got to fix it, you got to fix it. That's important and urgent. But if there's a lot of stuff that might be seen as important and urgent that maybe is just due to poor planning, to not having a lot of discipline in your processes or in what you're doing. And so if you can take some time in quadrant 2 doing that planning, doing that thinking about how do you get control of this stuff, it can then start to make quadrant 1 more manageable. So I got to get back up here to my notes because I did make notes. There is this thing called the Pareto Principle, Pareto Principle. However you pronounce that. 80% of the results flow out of 20% of the activities. So if you're spending all your time on the 20%, then that's only giving you 80% of your results. And the best place to get the time at the beginning, when you first get going, to work on Quadrant 2 stuff is from Quadrants 3 and 4, which makes sense. You don't automatically start cutting out your Quadrant 1 time. You start off by cutting down 3 and 4 and work on Quadrant 2. And then going forward, Quadrant 1 should shrink. At least that is the hope. Let's see. What else was really... So a Quadrant 2 organizer has got some criteria that they need to be using. If you're going to be a Quadrant 2 organizer, these are the things you need to be trying to make part of your life. Number one is coherence. You've got harmony, you've got unity, you've got integrity between your vision, where you want to go, and your mission. Why am I here? So coherence, balance. You're going to try to keep balance in your life, to identify your various roles and keep them in such that one isn't overwhelming the others. A Quadrant 2 focus, obviously, you need to be thinking about about using that focus and applying it to other things. You have to have a people dimension. You have to realize you're dealing with people. You can think about efficiency when you're talking about dealing with time, but when you're dealing with people, you really need to think about effectiveness, and there's a difference there. Efficiency is about getting stuff done as fast as possible, and effectiveness is trying to get stuff done as completely as possible in a I'm losing my words. By doing it the best way. It's totally different. So and effectiveness helps you in dealing with people. Efficiency doesn't really. You got to be flexible. You're planning, but your plans are going to change. You got to be realize that, and portable. However you're doing your planning, you have to have some way to take it with you. Maybe take it on your phone or something. So it's gotta come with you. So what are some of the key activities for Quadrant 2 organizing? You got to identify your roles, what it is you're doing. You got to select some goals. And they can be things like, based on your roles. So if you are a parent, you might want to make sure that you're available to help with your son's science project, or you need to, work on your daughter's bike or something like that. For if you are a administrator, maybe you need to be working on your end of month reports or get your salary reviews done, things of that nature. So you come up with the goals that align up with your various roles, and then you can schedule and figure out, and look at the due dates for these things and figure out what is the proper time to get them done. And he actually has a little in the book here. He's got a little organization thing you can do. So long-term organization is mission statements into roles and the goals. So that's kind of your mission statement. That's your long-term, long-reaching. Your weekly organization is taking your roles and your goals and looking at those in relations to creating plans for the week. And then from their plans, you can either schedule time yourself to do it or find somebody that you can delegate some of this stuff to. You do have to adapt this stuff daily. And then you got to live it. You just gotta continually work with it. And so that was kind of the crux of this chapter. The main thing is be getting to the point where you're planning. You're taking the time to do the planning, and you're thinking about the plan and how that can relate to the rest of your life. So it was an interesting chapter. There's lots of good stuff in here. Really is. In this book. So once again, I would encourage you to read it. Hopefully you found this interesting. I will be back on Monday, and I will be talking to you then. So, be seeing you.